Along the edges of Florida's swamps, a roadside archive preserves tracks and casts that resist easy explanation, including a single footprint whose shape complicates familiar categories. Years earlier in the same region, a fire chief photographs a dark figure entering the trees minutes after another driver reports an upright crossing on a rural road. Far from Florida, in the Appalachian Mountains, a field researcher records movement at a habituation site, reacts, pursues, and loses what he believes he briefly captured. Back in Florida, an edited daylight video shows a distant figure walking upright along a field's edge, its stride visible, its features erased by distance and zoom. And near Big Cypress, another video records a shape at range, upright against the tree line, present long enough to register posture before detail dissolves. These encounters span decades, locations, and methods. Footprints, photographs, testimony, and video. Each appears to offer clarity, then withholds it. Explanations emerge quickly and fit at first glance, but fracture under closer inspection. What remains are moments preserved after they have passed, evidence shaped by distance and limitation. The Skunk Ape Headquarters image. Along a quiet stretch near Big Cypress, Skunk Ape Headquarters operates as both roadside exhibit and archive, collecting reports, casts, and images tied to Florida's long-running folklore. The operation is associated with Dave Shealy, who has documented sightings and physical traces for decades, presenting them without claiming resolution. It was natural for Shealy to have an interest in skunk ape, as his father is credited with the most famous recording of skunk ape to date. Among the items displayed in the headquarters is a footprint recovered away from the headquarters itself. In 2019, a large impression was found in Myakka River State Park. The image shows a single track pressed into soft ground, notable for what appears to be a four-toed configuration. The shape is broad. The depth suggests weight. The edges are uneven, distorted by the substrate. For toes complicate familiar explanations. Human tracks are inconsistent with the proportions. Black bear hind prints typically register 5 toes. Wildlife specialists point to partial impressions, erosion, or overlap as ways toes can disappear in wet soil. Those explanations account for distortion, but not decisively. No trackway accompanied the print. No scale marker fixes size. The photograph captures only one moment after the animal had already passed through. Shealy does not present the footprint as proof. It remains an exhibit, catalogued rather than concluded. Like many artifacts at the headquarters, it invites inspection, offers possibilities, and stops short, leaving classification open. The next case has 2 witnesses who saw the same creature 15 minutes apart, with one taking a photograph. The Vince Door image. At 7:45 a.m. on July 21, 1997, real estate agent Jan Brock was driving along Burns Road in Big Cypress when something crossed directly in front of her vehicle. It moved upright. It was tall. She later described it as very shaggy, estimating its height at roughly 6.5 to 7 feet. The encounter lasted only seconds. Brock continued driving. Approximately 15 minutes later, Ochope Fire Chief Vince Door noticed a similar figure near his home, now moving toward the edge of the forest. Door stopped his vehicle and photographed the figure as it entered the tree line. The image shows a dark, upright shape partially obscured by vegetation. The figure appears vertical, elevated above surrounding brush. Limbs are indistinct. No facial detail is visible. What remains clear is posture rather than anatomy. Door later explained that his first assumption was a bear. The explanation held only briefly. Bears can rise onto 2 legs, but they do not remain there. They lean forward. They drop back to all fours. This figure did not. It stayed upright as it moved away. Door did not claim certainty. He did not identify a creature. The photograph provides no scale, no motion, and no resolution. The next case has motion, recorded on thermal in the middle of the night by someone who followed it. Appalachian Mountains, the habituation site. On October 16, 2016, shortly after 12:13 a.m., David Lauer of the Appalachia Skunk Ape Project was positioned at a wooded site where tracks had been documented weeks earlier. He described the area as a habituation location, a place returned to repeatedly after prior activity. While gathering leaves to start a fire, Lauer heard movement behind him. The sound came from higher ground along a ridge. He described what followed as deliberate rather than sudden. He activated a FLIR camera, stood, and slowly panned from right to left. The recording, according to Lauer, captured a heat-emitting figure at distance. He said the figure appeared to face him. No anatomical detail is described. There is no estimate of height, width, or limb structure. The identification comes immediately. Lauer states he believes the figure was a Sasquatch. Moments later, he says the subject turned and ran uphill. Lauer pursued it up a steep embankment but was unable to maintain visual contact. At the top of the rise, the figure was gone. Sound returned before clarity did. Lauer called other team members to the field, believing the subject remained nearby. The clip ends without confirmation, preserving only the sequence of reaction after the encounter had already begun. The next case is broad daylight, a clear field, and a full stride sequence on camera, and it still doesn't give you an answer. Florida, the Bigfoot Encounters upload. A video uploaded to the YouTube channel Bigfoot Encounters shows daylight footage from 2016 across a broad grassy field with a dense tree line in the distance. The clip is edited, opening with a title card calling it a skunk ape capture, then announcing the footage has been slowed down and zoomed in. In the wide view, the subject is easy to miss. The camera holds on the far edge of the field, while tall grass softens the horizon and the tree line absorbs contrast. After the zoom is applied, a dark figure becomes distinct against the lighter background. It is upright and remains upright. The figure moves from left to right along the vegetation edge in a continuous forward walk. A stride sequence is visible, alternating leg motion and a steady pace rather than a burst of movement. The travel continues long enough to read as deliberate motion until the creature blends in with the surroundings and vanishes. Even so, distance prevents confirmation of anatomy. Arms are suggested by the outline, but hands do not resolve. The head remains featureless. The video provides no scale marker and no close approach. What remains is a walking silhouette at range, presented through zoom and slow motion, and left without identification. The last case is the most famous, filmed by the man whose family has been documenting this thing for decades. P, Florida, the Shealy video. In July 2000, near the edge of Big Cypress, longtime Everglades resident Dave Shealy, father of Jack Shealy of Skunk Ape headquarters, recorded a brief video from his property. The footage was taken in daylight, with the camera trained toward a grassy field bordered by trees and palmettos. At first, nothing seems distinct. Tall grass fills the frame. The camera pans slowly, searching. Then a dark shape becomes visible at distance. The figure stands out not because of detail, but because of posture. It appears elevated above the grass line, momentarily vertical against the background. The camera zooms. The image softens. The subject shifts. For several seconds, the silhouette walks across the field in an upright position. There is no rapid movement, no clearly visible gait, just a dark, tall shape moving laterally along the vegetation, partially obscured as it goes. Shealy later described believing he had filmed a skunk ape. Skeptics pointed to bears, noting that black bears will stand to observe before dropping to all fours. The video accommodates both readings. Distance hides anatomy. Grass conceals limbs. Zoom exaggerates verticality. The clip offers no resolution. It documents a brief encounter at range, recorded after the moment had begun to pass. 5 encounters, different places, different forms of evidence. None resolve into certainty. Each captures something familiar behaving in unfamiliar ways, then slipping beyond classification. Whether artifact, image, testimony, or video, the pattern remains consistent. What is recorded never lasts long enough to be identified, yet lingers long enough to be questioned, resisting both dismissal and conclusion. The story doesn't end here. For more mysteries, join us and subscribe to Beyond the Myth.